Well, I've seen you chose this one about line work and doing a non-biologic. You're going to need a photo resource. You just saw my cell phone there with the photo resource that I'm drawing off of. What I'm talking about here is line and line quality. You can see here I have a tapered pencil here. You can see that I'm getting thick and thin lines. And depending on how much pressure I'm putting on there is how much intensity that line is. You're going to play with those two aspects in constructing your drawing. Your drawing is going to need to have a foreground and midground and a background. You can see here I'm starting lightly. I'm not pressing hard. I'm getting the basic shapes. So how you start your drawing is you just start dividing it up into basic shapes that you see in constructing this. I'm doing this freehand. You can do it freehand if you want. Just be very careful. It's easy to get off symmetry. It's easy to get off likeness doing it freehand. I'm started with the point of the foreground, and then I'm working my way back. And I'm lightly drawing here. You can tell it's not too dark. I'm using regular HB pencil here, and I'm using the thin part of my pencil to create light lines and just mapping stuff out. Once you got stuff fairly well mapped out, then you're going to want to reinforce things. You want to start fine-tuning it. You're going to want to get your thick lines for the front, your thinner lines for the midtone, and then your thin light lines in the background. Okay? You should not have any thick lines in the background. Should be thin, should be light. Your midtone, you can have a few thick lines, but they shouldn't be as intense as the foreground. They should be have a little bit of less intensity. It's that transition period from going from the foreground to the background. So it should be a mix of both light lines and thick lines and thin lines. It's going from thick to foreground, and as you're proceeding to the background, you're going thinner and lighter. So you can see here I'm shading stuff in. Definitely going to need to do shading. That's going to be probably part of the grade and help get that 3D or that 2D form. And you're going to want to work around the piece. You don't want to stick too much on one part of the piece. So you don't want to stay too much in the foreground. Once you get the foreground started a little bit, then you might want to move to the background, or you might want to move to the midground. You don't want a piece that looks really awesome in one aspect that I can tell that you spent like an entire time on, and then the rest of it's kind of meh. All right. You want unity in your entire piece. So, and I know most of you know that I don't really care for mechanical pencils. I got this one. It works all right. I'm using HB lead, so it's very neutral kind of lead. Remember that you're drawing with your not so much with your hand. A lot of aspects I'm doing with my fingers here. But when you're doing straight lines, pull towards you and use your arm. Don't use your hand. Your hand, if you use your hand, it's going to curve. You're not going to get straight lines that you want. If you drag your arm back, you're going to get straighter lines. And there's a ding. Wonderful. So you can see here I'm reinforcing some lines. You can tell that the foreground got thicker lines, more intense lines, and it's popping right out. And now I'm getting my mid-ground here, not using as thick of lines, maybe some intensity in my lines, but they're not as thick to show that it's going off in the background. If you go out in the woods or whatever, you go hiking, if you look in the distance, the mountains in the far distance furthest away from you, they always look a little bit lighter, like there's kind of a gray haze. What's closer is going to be more intense, it's going to be more vivid, it's going to be more in focus. Same way, just doing it with the line work. You're putting whatever is in the foreground, thicker lines, more in focus, more detail, and as you go back, lighter lines, hence the gray haze, so it looks farther away. You have the placement That's going to tell the viewer where it is at, but also the line work. It's going to make their job easier. It's going to make it more compelling. It's going to make for a better piece. See there, I'm drawing on the next building, and then I move back to the foreground, start tightening some stuff up. I'm moving around. I'm not just staying on one part. I'm drawing in reflections. Reflections are not entirely easy. Need my help? I'm more than happy to help. You got reflective properties. I don't care what you draw. I want you to draw something. It's supposed to be non-biologic. Draw a hallway. Draw a car. Draw a cityscape. Okay? Something kind of man-made. Landscape would be biologic, so don't do that. Because it has more precise edges, and it's going to be easier for you to get those thick and thin line ratios. So pick what you want to do and do it. You got sketchbook with this. It's to practice these line work. So there you go. Enjoy.